going on down there?
I can go on for a while about Toronto food. We're excessively fortunate in Toronto that we've got, like, not only do we got a lot of world cuisine, but, like, we had a burger fad that started apparently, like, back in the early 2010s, which resulted in just high quality, like, burger stuff around town.
We had the same thing in New York. Yeah, it's really cool. Like, there's this incredible burger joint in Jersey City called Left Bank that I love.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's really good.
I gotta check that out if I'm ever in the area.
Yeah, there's that's the secret of Jersey City, is that it's actually really nice. We try not to let the secret get out. We don't want what happened to Brooklyn to happen to us. But
you just tell everyone, no, go through New York. It'll be great. Actually, you know what? Just stay there if you're having a good time.
It's all crime ridden and on fire. You don't want to come here, and you don't want to drive our property values up by thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars and make us all have to move. So, yeah, it's terrible. Yeah. It's all gangland and refineries.
Never go to Jersey. That's what everyone from Jersey told me. By the way, hey everyone, welcome to WTF TFW. We're doing a tabletop interview, and this time it's not about a card game, it's about a tabletop RPG system. Yes. Specifically one that's very, very relevant to Transformers, which is built off of an existing system. But we're going to get into that. That system, by the way, is called Rememorex. And I shouldn't do all of the pitch stuff here, but I am joined today by someone from I'm going to say the Rememorex team. Why don't you introduce yourself to the listeners and tell them what you do?
Okay, I'm Sean Jaffe. I'm a game designer. I was one of the two primary creators on both Rememorex and RPG Nasty. And I'm sort of taking point on the new project, which is Commandroids, A World Transformed, which is it's an entirely independent game. It's its own game, but it can plug into Rememorex. It's been a lot of fun working on it.
Yeah, so you guys were at TFcon. That's how we first got in contact, which I was mentioning before we kind of got going. This is the first time I think we've had some full-on tabletop at TFcon that I can remember, at least, in the years I've been going, as opposed to just, like, people playing the new TCG, which is it's just now about a year old. So you guys were a very unique experience, and I'm kind of curious, like, just to start things off, like, what was TFcon like? You said, you've gone to other gaming conventions. You all were just at Gen Con, if I recall correctly.
Yep, we just got back.
Yeah, so TFcon, like, that is a show where people are there for Transformers first, as opposed to a Gen Con where everyone's kind of there just, for tabletop of some flavor.
Yeah.
So what was it like running demos and character creation and everything?
It was, it was really, it was a lot of fun. And like I said, I have never been to a Transformers convention before, despite being a giant Transformers nerd my entire life. But it always felt like, I already made my job playing games. It seemed a little like a bridge too far to be like, it's my job to just go play with Transformers now. But having the new game, tie in so well, it made a lot of sense. And I went up with two other members of the team, which is Gia Grillo and Megan, my wife, Megan Jaffe. And we were up on our way up. I was saying, I was happy to be wrong about it, but on the way up, I was like, I don't know how these people are going to react. I don't know if they're going to be into this. They might just be there to pick up their, whatever the new thing is and leave, and they're not going to want to do this. So this is kind of a fact-finding mission for us, and we might have to go back to the drawing board if they're not into it. But we had lines out the door the whole time. It was fantastic. So I was really happy to be wrong about that.
Yeah, I wish I'd been able to come by on Saturday. I ran into the thing of I finished TFCon thinking, oh no, I didn't do everything, but I was also busy the whole time.
Right.
And like Saturday, I was in one of those card tournaments, but I wish I'd been able to pop in for one of those closed door, like, kind of demo. Was it like a full demo scene you were running?
One of the things that we've started doing, especially if we're at like a smaller convention, is we do like a series of stage demos that like roll into each other. So if I'm like at a huge show like Gen Con, I'll just run the same thing, and I'll do multiple versions of the same story. But at TFCon, we had smaller groups that would kind of overlap. So we took that main story and separated it into three parts. So we do little minor demos of how to do character creation, how to run the game, and then we did like 3 like sort of 4-hour blocks that moved through a story set in the default setting in Florida with a group of robots finding out that there's a prophecy about some sort of giant evil that was going to rise from the ocean, and what they did to stop it.
And I guess just I'll quickly pop in to say, like, for those of you who are tuning in who weren't there to learn about this, this is a tabletop RPG in the sense of it's a very, as I took it, a very storytelling driven tabletop with the
highly narrative, I would say.
Like the system is very I did a character creation thing on Sunday, and the system seemed like it was very much, there were a lot of mechanics about the creation of your character and about who your character is, less so than there are like hard number mechanics of like, okay, like roll this to pick up a bottle, or like roll this to do that. It's a lot more, you have a sheet that represents who your character is. You are rolling dice and you're still, operating collaboratively, but it is a lot more about the storytelling than about like, gaining X number of points, or you got to get this item for your character kind of thing.
Oh yeah, it's very much in the vein of like a TV show or a movie. It's about who they are and their development as characters. And we wanted to do something that would really sort of, and this sounds weird, but it's a key part, I think, of their Transformers mythology, and it's something that I keep coming back to, is that these characters are ultimately very human. I know they're like jet fighters and tanks and 30-foot robots, but at the end of the day, you care about who they are because they have these very human drives and ideals and things like that. And I wanted to sort of bring that in and have that, that sense of humanity to it, while not skimping on the fact that you get to turn into an awesome race car or a jet fighter and do awesome race car and jet fighter stuff. So we built the system to reflect both of those things.
The thing that really drew me to your demo in the first place was that this was so storytelling driven. Like my personal goals of RPGing is really like, someday I want to get everyone to sit down to play a game of like Lasers and Feelings or something like that. Those ones that are very easy to like, and I think it's correct, where it's kind of like, people will say, does that mean you just want to sit down and have vaguely structured improv with a bunch of other people? And I'm kind of like, yeah, kind of.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with, like, there used to be this whole school of thought in the gaming, in the gaming world of, like arguing, well, it's better to be doing numbers, or it's better to be doing just pure emotional role playing, or pure structure and who killed what and when. And it's sort of been resolved that, like, whatever you want to play is best. If everyone's having fun at the table, that's a successful game. That's what it takes.
Well, the one time I played D&D was at a PAX some years ago with a friend of mine a couple friends of mine. One of them was an excellent DM, or GM, I guess DM for D&D. And it was when the system had switched to have like slightly more MMO style combat. And all I told him was, I want to be a halfling and I want to shoot lasers. And he figured out a way for me to be a halfling paladin with like a daily power that shot like some kind of heaven bolt. And he's like, it's like a laser. And so I said, great. So we found a tavern full of hobgoblins, and I said, okay, I want to use my daily on the door. So he said, go for it. So, he worked with me really well, because he's like, yeah, there's mechanics, but clearly you want to shoot a laser through the front door. And I'm like, yes.
Right, yeah.
So we did it. He says, all right, the shrapnel killed like 5 hobgoblins. What are you going to do next? I said, now I want to jump in through the window next to the door I blew open.
Never let us see
it was a good time. Yeah.
That sounds fun.
I want to play this character. So the Commandroid system, like, it's within the RememberX system, which it exists. It is purchasable. It's out there.
Drive-through RPG.
Yeah, Drive-through RPG. If you want to see like the info page that I'm looking at, there is a rememberx.com. There's maybe a /supplement/Commandroids even, and the crux of it, like RememberX at least, the crux of it, which ties a lot of these ideas together, as you explained, it was sort of like Stranger Things, where there is some kind of incident going on. Commandroids is just a big bundle of that incident also happening to be transforming robots. And you guys were talking about how you've also got like a sort of how do I put this? Well, I skirt around names, so I like doing that. If there was like a music performer whose name was like Ruby and the solid light images,
We say we've been saying new wave holograms. That's I think the best way to put it. And it doesn't always, like, there's people, but it still sort of evokes, like, your kind of MTV, glitz, glamour, and that kind of a thing. And that's definitely part of this same universe that we're building. So the first three that we're doing is Commandroids: A World Transformed, which is, yes, it's very obvious that it's hugely influenced by the Transformers, but also Robotech and Voltron, and then weirdly enough, there gets to be some Cronenberg in there later.
I'm going to be going into that pretty deep. That not to spoil the one part of this podcast, that connected with me enormously. So
cool.
I got to throw some ramble about those Nemesites.
Yeah, and that was something that, when we initially came up with it, like, the idea was to have more of like a sort of religious angle to the Decepticon analog, and they got real Cronenbergian real fast. Like, it was, because you bring in that pilot element, and then Megan is developing Holomatics: A New Wave Order, which is the next one we're going to be doing probably around 2021. And that is, again, it's Gem and then Barbie and the Rockers and a little bit of Buckaroo Banzai. And then the next one we're doing after that is called Myrmidons of Midcaria, and that's space barbarians and power princesses and, Thundercats, He-Man, Black Star, that kind of...
You could have an evil wizard with a skull head, for instance, like
oh yeah, absolutely.
Some kind of staff that shoots like havoc everywhere.
Yes, some sort of goat head staff is mission critical.
I almost want to fast forward a bit because I'm very excited about the stuff you shared about Nemesites while I was in there. So this setting, right? You have your Symbitrons, which are the good guys, and the Nemesites, which are the bad guys.
Symbiotron resistance and the Nemesite capacitors.
Yes. And they've got logos. They've got a very straightforward setup on the outset of, like, okay, good guys, bad guys. But there's a couple things about the Nemesites which I think were extremely unique to the setting. I mean, Symbitrons as well, but like the Nemesites specifically just were fascinating to me because, as you said, there's a very Voltron Robotech twist to this, which involves the human pilot aspect.
Yeah. And that was, weirdly enough, that was where, we wanted to sort of take one element that would throw things into enough of a different realm that it wasn't just us filing the serial numbers off the Transformers and making a game about it, where there's like another element. And if you do a deep enough dive, like anybody that, I'm assuming that anybody listening to this will probably know what the headmasters are and that there's a lot of that going on. But for the average, especially, like the average gamer, they're going to be like, oh, they have pilots. And we wanted to make the pilots feel a little bit more Voltron-like than Headmaster-like. There's probably a bit of both in there. We wanted to have it be a thing where you're sort of playing two characters and they can switch at the table. And that's part of the fun of it, is... We've learned with Rememorex that a lot of the fun of these games is sort of balancing the bizarre with the mundane and having part of the game just be that, like, you're in math class and the school bully is breathing down your neck and says, give me your lunch money or I'm going to beat you up at 3:00. And then having to reconcile that with the fact that, that there's like a ghost in the house on the end of the lane or something, so you've got like bizarre alien problems as well as very mundane normal kid problems. And taking that to the next level with Commandroid, you can swap back and forth. So the psyche and abilities of the kid and the psyche and the abilities of the robot can swap. And so the bully comes up to punch you in the face and breaks his arm because he just hit a bulldozer in the face. And the bulldozer's going to win the fight, but then your friends have to gather around this bulldozer and be like, all right, stop asking everybody what this earth substance is. It's called ice cream. You've known that your whole life, Billy. Come on. And so you get that kind of interesting character relationship aspect on both sides of it, where the robots have their own, thoughts and ideals, and the pilot has their own, ideas, and they might not always line up.
Yeah. So like as far as like the quote unquote science of the world, it's kind of like they could just straight up their consciousnesses can swap places between the human and the robot, like shell, basically.
Yep. Yes. But then the human gains all of the robot's powers as well. So you're like a 16-year-old kid that could potentially, fly and fire missiles and do anything that the robot can do.
Yeah.
They're just transferring it into the pilot. And it might be something that isn't necessarily even a fight. Like, you might have to just swap between, there might be something that requires your, you need like a plasma cutter so that you can get out of, you get locked in a freezer at a local restaurant. So you swap with the robot. Now you've got the plasma cutter and you get out, and, then you're wandering around as this robot, and it doesn't exactly know how to deal with people. That's kind of there's this the scenarios are all very varied in terms of what happens, but we've had a lot of fun with the play tests on it.
Well, the character creation thing I was in it was a friend of mine, Eric, Mechanova King on the boards, by the way, and another fellow who I had not met before, and now his name escapes me. But we had like a 3-player character creation, and even in that, it was kind of like just lots of little nuance, lots of little ideas, not just for what I was doing, but in everyone else. Like, it was cool to see how everyone was parsing the system. Like, me and the other guy were kind of very simply sort of we ended up both going for construction robots in a fairly straightforward way, and then Eric was going for like, well, what if like, I forgot if it was like they turned into a calculator or like a computer thing or something like that.
He did the little moth. It was the
moth. Yes,
the Walkman. Yeah.
It was a Walkman.
I saw him at Gen Con, actually.
Yeah,
I think he was in Holomatics.
He was telling me he got in a game of what was it? It was like Punk Rock Gem, and they had a Nemesis power source, and
that was Holomatics. Megan was running that. Yeah.
Yeah, he said he had a good time. I think I was supposed to pass that on. But
consider it passed.
Excellent, Eric. You better have listened to this, because I'm not telling you I did this. But the whole nature of that bond, like, in universe, the science, quote unquote, of it is like there's a biofeedback energy that is required for the Commandroids to change form, basically, into their robot forms. And so the Symbitrons, they go for this partnership, this sort of friendly thing, and that's the kind of the nature of it. Yeah,
it's one of the players pointed out to me that the difference between a Symbiotron and a Nemesis is consent. So the Symbiotron comes to you and makes this this psychic request and says, are you willing to do this and join with me and defend your planet? And only the most heroic and stout-hearted people are like, yes, I will. And then the Nemesis just sort of pulls up to a crowded place, opens the door, and waits. And whoever is unfortunate enough to get inside, bam, they're done. And that's the last we ever see of that person. Oh, look, a free sports car. No, never a good deal.
I think the way you described it was you put your hands on 10 and 2, and then just hooks come out into your knuckles, and you're kind of like, all right.
Very Cronenberg, yeah.
At the podcast roundtable on Sunday, I was sharing. I have a couple Nemesis anecdotes you guys had shared from like test campaigns you had run, and you were telling us about after the character creation, and it just really stuck with me. And I was sharing it partly because every time I was telling someone, at least one person I'm talking to will kind of blink and go like, "Wait, what? Wait, I want to know more about this."
Oh, great! Yeah, very cool. We're doing rules for if we get up to the stretch goals, we'd like to do a section on playing the Nemesites, because it's always fun to play the bad guy.
Oh yeah,
and there's the people who pilot the Nemesites are techno revenants. Like they're sort of like robot undead, and there's auto zealots who, for whatever reason, like willingly go into that partnership. Cyber ghouls are people who are sort of kept alive but addicted to the Nemesis, and then necrotrons, which are just kind of robot zombies that they use to sort of keep themselves powered but don't have any real appearance of being alive anymore. And they've been a lot of fun. Like, they're really weird, scary villains. And the Nemesites are they're obviously the bad guys. They're this weird pseudo-religious cult that worships an AI called the Mainframe that took over and mechanized their entire home planet, which is what caused the Symbitrons to download their consciousnesses onto a artificial comet and launch it out into space in the hopes of finding someplace new to inhabit. And when the Mainframe, the great evil, a giant evil robot planet who, obviously has an analog out there, and he sees that the Nemesites have failed to kill all the Symbitrons. He says, "You got to go after them." He's exiled them until they come back with proof that that the Symbitrons have been destroyed. And whether or not he's going to honor that deal is obviously up in the air. But that's up to you. You're the players. You're coming up with the story. We've done 2 years of playtests now, and there's been a lot of different sort of stories and things that have come up. There's a few Nemesites that have really sort of become these recurring characters. Vector Ferox is this black government helicopter that he's the head of the Inquisition, and he's sort of hunting everything down. He's very Hans Landa from Inglourious Bastards. He's just this weird creep that is really good at finding the good guys. And then Axiom Symmetrica is the mad scientist. And there's another one that the players have really enjoyed, love to hate of the big three, is a Thresher Combine named Ogre Vorax, who's a weird robot cannibal.
That's one of the ones I share immediately when I was telling people about that. A Combine Thresher that turns into a cannibal hillbilly robot. Think those aesthetics. There's a compact sentence to describe some of where that's going. It is that in the amusement park, were the ones that really stuck in my head. The abandoned amusement park. Yeah. Combiner.
The entire amusement park was an evil combiner that was called Nix Rictus. So there's a whole weird religious element to this that sort of brings in the Voltron aspect. So their home planet of Quasaros used to have 5 different AIs that ruled over 5 different kingdoms. They were called the Mecha Shoguns. And of course there was a blue one, a red one, a green one, a yellow one, and a black one. And they had these giant robots that would defend the planet on occasion. When the Mainframe took over, they thought they had destroyed the Mecha Shoguns, but they had just destroyed the robot bodies. They hadn't destroyed the Shoguns themselves. The AIs downloaded themselves into the Symbitrons and continued to live in the form of the Symbitrons' anchorites, which are these, they're called sacred subroutines. So in a weird way, they're kind of like a cleric class. They're kind of like a priest class, but they're also the ones that serve as the base for the combiners. And in the game, any group of robots can combine. It's just having an anchorite makes it a little bit easier. So any group of players, if your table decides they want to get together and make one giant robot, they will be able to do it. But an anchorite gives you the ability to sort of take on the power of one of the great mecha shoguns, and each of them has different abilities. So there's one that's called Raid Eden, who is kind of like a grappler. He's just a all fist fight, get in close and smash whatever he's going up against. Whereas there's another one that's called Master Control Kambatra, and she's the keeper of secrets, and she's all about knowledge. So she's more of a distance fighter who's got I-beams and lasers and lightning. And we wanted to have this cool aspect to the combiners, and when you combine, you can do different cool things with it, because that tends to be the crescendo of any combiner story, and it works out that it's the same part of the game. That's where the players really get to shine and do awesome stuff, and you want to give everybody a chance to sort of bring something into it. So if your character is a helicopter, you might be all right, I'm going to have a giant spinning rotor blade that that's my contribution. This is going to be our weapon, or somebody who's like a giant dump truck's well, I'm going to be the armor plating, and it's designed to accommodate for that. You build this thing together, and then you go into combat, but we realized that the bad guys have to have an equivalent thing. So we tried to come up with for a while what would be this weird, evil robot cultist. What aspects? How do we give them these, like, the same variation of giant robots that they could build? And it was like right before we went to TFcon. I was watching the movie again, as I do, just kind of leaving it on in the background for inspiration. That scene of the spare me this mockery of justice, the Imperial Magistrate. Yeah. And we were like, the 5 faces. So that became a thing. And Nix Rictus grew out of the idea that, one of the faces is laughter. I'm like, oh man, what would a laughter-based combiner that was also evil be? And I realized, oh wait, there's those, the weird stuff at the fair. Those are all giant machines. Why wouldn't you have that turn into some sort of giant, horrifying robot? So that's where that thing came from.
Yeah. That's my other favorite one to just like share with someone when I'm telling them about this whole thing. Like the spoken word, for the most part, aesthetics of the Nemesites, I think, like, for whatever reason, that's like a real like key flavor that I think was setting this apart for me enormously compared to my assumptions going in.
Thanks.
Yeah, no worries. Is that also just, it's that the Commandroids front, like, I guess, sort of cover image that we've seen of the guy with the bouquet of flowers behind his back as he's walking up to the feminine looking giant robot, says a whole lot to me just about like the character interaction side of this system.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad to hear that. We realized pretty early on that, like, anytime that you're going to have a 30-foot robot meeting another 30-foot robot, there's going to be punching. It's part and parcel with the system that obviously there's going to be a lot of robot fights. But we wanted to sort of have something that stressed that these things are huge, kick-ass, awesome robots, but also you're not just going to be fighting. This is about their relationships and their lives with each other, and yeah. How that progress takes place, as well as punching other robots, which is always fun.
Like the immediate place I went in my head, I think I mentioned it when I was in the room, is it made me immediately think of in the recently ended IDW continuity. There's a new one, so those comics are still happening, but the one that recently ended, we had this wonderful little like family of Thundercracker, the giant F-15 or sometimes F-22, I guess now, blue Decepticon, and Marissa Fairborn, like one of the commanders of Earth Force or whatever, and a dog, and they kind of just formed this familial unit.
Yeah, I love that story. That's honestly one that we've talked about a lot. I think that was one of the ways that I managed to get some of the other people in the team on board, was showing them that story and the idea of Thundercracker and his failed screenplays. Was it Susan Journier and Josh Boyfriend, her boyfriend?
Yeah.
And just the fact that he's not just that he's trying to be a screenwriter. The thing that just makes it so delicious is that he's so bad at it. Like, I love that.
And he has this absolute confidence as well. Like the
background
it
absolutely
of it
humanizes him. I mean, that's exactly what I was talking about. Like he's so relatable in that way. He's like he's a 60-foot tall robot who's also a bad screenwriter. That's brilliant.
Yeah, the thing they did with him, like they had this All Hail Megatron event some years ago to sort of kickstart interest in the comics again, and it's Megatron wins, and it was a whole storyline. But then after that, there were characters who were kind of just off the radar, and then the reveal on Thundercracker where they were like, yeah, he's actually just been living in a cave watching TV for the last 5 years and deciding he's good at it.
I love that story so much. And the thing that I also liked about it was that I'm very old school G1. I'm sort of aware of the other stuff that's come after, but I don't know stuff after Armada as well. I kind of know Beast Wars, but my heart lives in G1. And throughout pretty much that entire story, like I think Thundercracker's whole personality was the blue one. Yeah. I mean. You had Starscream, who everybody knows his deal, and then Skywarp, when he had any chance to sort of show his individuality, was just that he was the jerk who thought that, kicking somebody in the face was a funny prank. And then the blue one.
Yeah.
Who I think in like one episode sort of was like, maybe I shouldn't be a Decepticon, and then immediately forgot about that. So yeah, having him have like a lot of personality that just didn't come out in wartime is so fantastic. It's so great.
It's one of my favorite things about the last, I would say, about 5-6 years of IDW was just like letting the setting just be it's post-war. So all these characters that were like 80s cartoon characters now have to deal with, life. they have to deal with.
I absolutely love that stuff. It was so good. And the thing that I thought was really bizarre about it was I was reading one of the ones where like Bumblebee is in control of Cybertron, and like I think it was like right around when he was like, it was somehow they were going to turn it over to Starscream. And I remember reading it and I'm like, it was talking about like the combiners potentially starting up again. And I'm like, nobody has turned into a car or a jet in like this entire, like it's entirely about these things as people. Like the fact that they turn into like cars and stuff has become very incidental. And I mean, the part of me that loves the toys is not thrilled about that, but the part of me that loves a good story loves it. So that was really cool.
Starscream actually got control. He was duly elected. It was all above board, aside from the part where he might have killed one of the other people running. But he's duly elected, and we had about a half decade of President Starscream, which is, I think, my favorite Transformers story setting that has ever been written.
It's good stuff.
I can go on about that for ages.
Totally.
You mentioned, I should bring this up because you mentioned stretch goals. Commandroids is a Kickstarter that is currently ongoing.
Yes, it is currently in its. We need, just as many people to look at it and get on board as possible. We have got all kinds of cool stuff. You can, if you have a character that you've always wanted to see, one of the really cool things we can do is we've got one where we're going to have like a dossier that's kind of like an old like catalog, and it'll have art of these different characters that you can sort of plug into your game, and you can create the characters. So if you've always wanted to have, like an F-14 that was a spy, and you've had it in your head, this is your chance, or something like that. We've got at this point, I think 100 vehicles that you can choose from, and we can drop in more as time goes on. It's one of these things where we keep making more of them, and there's some weird stuff too. Like one of the demo characters is a arcade cabinet, which I don't think there's ever been a Transformer of. I could be wrong.
There is not. There have been game controllers and game consoles, but never an arcade cabinet.
Yeah, it's. I'm kind of surprised there wasn't. But that's the sort of thing. And in one of the demos we did, there was a VCR that was menacing the players. It was a Nemesis VCR who was coming after them with his little minions, Hellraiser and Creepshow.
That's excellent. Did Hellraiser just like erupt some little spikes out of its head, or?
Yeah, when they never actually saw him, he was under under some stairs. They just saw the glowing red eyes. But yeah, he definitely has the little spikes on his head and the little he's got like a little box and stuff, And Creepshow was the simultaneous best and worst part of this game is coming up with characters that I dearly wish I had figures of. And Creepshow is one of them. He's this little like spider who the silk is the video cassette tape. So he like wraps people up in the videotape and stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
Right? I was like, man, I want one of these. And I keep coming down on that.
Eric coming up with the moth robot
that
mode.
Moth
for that
is so
Walkman.
Cool.
He's also sitting there drawing it because that happens to be part of his vocation.
Write it down. I wish I'd written down the name. It had a cool name, but I can't remember it. I feel bad about that. I'm sorry, Eric. I'll find the name. It'll be in the book.
If he's listening, then he's got. I think he's still got that picture he drew with the name on it. So Eric, you got to get on this. All right, I'm saying this to you specifically. I hope you're listening.
We're calling you.
But yeah, the Kickstarter is running until September 2nd.
Yes.
According to the Kickstarter page, and head on over and check that out as well. That's under the Nerdy City projects.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it's also I saw the link on the Commandroids page on rememberx.com, so it's findable. They got this team has got their what do you call it, hyperlink synergy all in action here.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's whenever you do a Kickstarter, like the big thing is just waking up in the middle of the night going, how do I get more people to look at this? It's it's a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week job, and I every time I'm like, there's more people I could, I just want to, you got to get it out there in front of as many people as possible. But you don't want to be obnoxious about it or sort of overdo it. So you just kind of.
Well, the science of crowdfunding, it still amazes me. Just the rhythm of it, the part where, there is this period where actually there is supposed to be. This is the one that wowed me. I think people have been applying it to that Unicron crowdfund that's going on right now, where people are like, oh, in one of these, there's supposed to be a 1 week period of kind of nothing happening. Because that's people finding out about it. And I'm like, okay.
And I can tell you from personal experience, that 1 week is the most terrifying week of your life. It happened on Remembrix. It happened on RPG Nasty. I know it's going to happen on Commandroids. The only thing worse is that there is a part where people start to pull back. They're and that's, again, it's just part of it, that they'll be like, oh, I pledged this much and now I don't have it. And they'll pull it down or whatever. But every time you see that, your blood goes to ice. It's it's a scary thing.
At least people know more about how these systems work now. Because I remember some years ago, one of the most frustrating things for me with a Kickstarter I was interested in was when people were like, well, why should I back it if I don't think it's going to get funded? And I was just sitting there going I don't know. Well, go and it's a zero risk thing. Go do it.
Yeah, exactly. The good news though is that there's always an upswing at the end, and that always helps. But I mean, we're looking really good on Kick Track right now. Everything is coming along pretty great. We managed to get a third of the way there in the first week, which is really solid. We've never done something this ambitious before, but like I said, we wanted to do something that's going to be bigger and better than any of our other projects. And again, we're not a huge publishing house. We're 6 people out of Jersey City who've just had these ideas for games that we wanted to play and wanted to have other people play them with us. And there's only one way to do that. The thing that I'm most excited about for Commandroids is I think there's a way, I'm still working on it, but I think there's a way that we can do the original style tech specs from the old G1 boxes. Mm-hmm. And make the little red window available at conventions. So if you come pick up the red window from us, you can read those little coded messages that'll be in the book. And I'm really excited for that. I really want to get that in there. I think that'd be a lot of fun and make the book kind of into a toy. With the art, we've got these incredible artists, and I keep telling them the same thing: is that I want to do these characters in a way that you want to pick them up and play with them. So having that and then having this other element where you can literally play with the book is something that I really want to do.
I also got to give big shouts out for having planning around doing a physical book, because especially as a small team, I have some very distant tertiary experience with the notion of publishing anything physical. So my brother self-published a graphic novel, and that is a ton of work. So that taking that on as part of the Kickstarter, I fully appreciate. That's a big project to deal with. On top of making the game. I've seen games that just operate as PDFs for sale. And so this is I like the idea that you guys are also still going for the the full physical book thing. The tech spec reader side of it, I think, would just be a cherry on top.
I found when you're running a game, especially with people who are new to it, it's just best to have something physical that you can hand to them, and this is what it. You can also print out a PDF, but part of it is also just in the presentation. There's a thing about a game where you're sort of everybody's agreeing to this set of rules, and if you have something that presents that set of rules in a way that sort of evokes what you're going for. So in this case, all of the Remembrix books at this point all share a look that is they look like old VHS tapes, and Commandroid is one where we're going to have that kind of. We want it to sort of look like a tape, but also like one of the original boxes. So, with the grid and everything. So that, you just pick up the book and you're like, I know what this is. That sort of sense of both nostalgia and sense memory that'll that'll get you with just what you're looking at and what you're holding. And that means we got to make a book. So plus it's nice to just have something there when you're done with all of the work. Just be able to pick something up and be like, we made this. It's here.
Yeah. Off of a Kickstarter as well, like especially I think like a crowd-funded thing that results in just like a physical piece is a closed circle system that I really like. Absolutely not trying to dash anything on something that's fully digital, but like if the means are there and the experience is there, like a physical book it means a lot in 2019, I think. Like going over to video games, like there are games where it's almost like the physical copy version is a limited run collector piece that we're doing because you all bought it digital, but for the people with a shelf, we've got like a run of 1,500 copies of a disc in a box.
Right.
And like that's almost like a retro draw now.
But that's a weird thing. Like music is the same way. I know that Cybertronic Spree just did their album of the original '86 movie soundtrack. Mm-hmm. They just did that on Kickstarter, and I saw that they had a cassette of their single, and I don't remember if they had the cassette that they were going to do of. If there is a cassette, I'm picking it up. That's all I'm saying. I know I backed it. Yeah. I don't remember if I did that, but if they eventually do a cassette, I'm definitely getting the cassette. A lot of people collect the vinyl. I love having the little cassettes, and I think it probably ties back to the fact that I love Transformers and they had cassettes and not vinyl.
Also, cassettes, I think cassettes make for nothing against vinyl. I think cassettes are a cooler looking shelf, and also they're more portable.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not.
Sometimes they turn into Panthers. That's pretty great.
Yeah, when that happens, like, hey, you got a good one.
Yeah.
I was gonna go somewhere with that, and I just slipped my mind. I'm thinking about cassettes turning into Panthers. Oh, I remember what it was. One of those intro videos you'd played for us on the projector. One of those had some footage from a music video by an artist named Carpenter Brute, who I really like. And
yes.
Carpenter Brute and Perturbator are a couple of synthwave artists I really, really got into in the last few years, off the back of a video game, oddly enough. And I bought all their music on Bandcamp because that's the primary way that they sell it, and they're doing great just doing that because you get stuff of theirs off Bandcamp, often at pay what you want setups, and then afterwards you're like, well, I really like this, and you go to look at their merch store, and it is just here's all the albums, but on every single format,
right,
right down to audio cassette.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. Like I certainly am happy.
There's something very weirdly authentic about picking up synthwave on cassette. It feels right.
And also to do it because you like the band and not just because like this is the only way to sample it.
Oh yeah,
it gives us that nice balance. Cause I'm happy that we don't have mountains of landfill being created just for the sake of having the media available. But to have the option of the physical item there once you're into it, I think is a really it's the nice way to continue making plastic whatever.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. I also just like to justify my own landfill a whole lot.
Well, I definitely have more than enough plastic as well, both in terms of cassettes and Transformers. There's no question there.
Well, it's a bit of a tangent. I meant to ask, because I saw you guys messing around with some stuff, but did you have a decent haul out of TFcon? Like while you were so busy doing these demos, but whenever you guys did get the chance to poke around.
So it was a weird thing on Saturday. I didn't get to go to the dealer's hall at all. And it felt like the little kid, like looking out the window at the other kids all having a birthday party. It's like, I want to be there. And I had never seen that much of the third party stuff in one place. Somebody told me that TFcon Toronto is where like the third party guys all show up with their cool new stuff. And of course that was also the weekend that like the Siege, whatever wave that had Refractor in it dropped back in the States. So It was just a madhouse, right? And so I wound up I picked up a bunch of stuff. And the main thing that I got for myself was I got the little alligator con, the Alicon. I don't know if I'm saying it right.
Oh,
the Ba Weep Grana Weep Nitty Bong guys. Those guys. I was so screamingly excited that there's a physical object of that. I've wanted one of those for so long. I mean, I wanted one of those when I was like 8. Like that's so cool.
There's a history to that figure that is fascinating. The guy who designed, like one of the guys who worked on that, who I believe I would name as the main designer, Azim Vengsta online. He'd worked on an Alicon for another third-party company called Impossible Toys, who no longer exists, and it was this slightly larger Alicon that was kind of like it looked and felt like a sort of posable G1 toy for better and for worse, and that smaller one was kind of like, to me, it was him getting to like properly finish off doing an Alicon. Like I think that figure is fantastic. I got like
it's so cool.
I think I've got about 3 of them, and they also had like a variant as a Dinobot. That they had at a convention a couple of years ago. He had like a normal robot head. You know, like the Dinobots all had sort of normal looking heads. So they put one of those on him, did him in Dinobot colors. It totally worked.
And now I got to keep an eye out for that. See, I'm in danger. Yeah, there was that. There was there was some version of Exhaust, and I got that primarily so I could explain it to a friend of mine who didn't know that it existed. That weird wheeljack version that was like the most like it was like the worst choice of things to put together into a toy in the 80s, where he was like, oh, well, it's okay, he's got a cigarette ad on him, but it's okay, we made him a bad guy who uses cigarettes to kill people. Like, wait, what are you doing? Like everything about that just was nuts. And there was the big thing that I got was the Victorion box set. But that was for my entire team. So each of us took one of the ladies out of the box set, so that like everybody in Nerdy City, when we get together, we've got a podcast that we do with the Remember X called Not a Test. Remember X, Not a Test, by Casey Edison. Look it up. And a little plug there. Whenever we get together, we build Victorion, and then we do the podcast. That's our new tradition.
Oh, excellent.
So each of us has one part. I think I've got Dust Up. I'd have to look. I don't remember which one it is that I went back with. I know that Casey got Rust Dust. I feel a little bit bad about that because she's smaller than all the others, but...
It's one of my favorite names, though. It's a remarkably difficult name to say quickly. There's a lot of consonant noises.
Rust Dust. You sound a little drunk when you... Rust Dust. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's one of those Transformers names that it seems like it would be difficult to yell in the middle of a fight. Hey, Rust Dust, get over here. Yeah, I guess you'd be a little confused.
Like, why do none of you ever pronounce the first T? You just keep calling me Rust Dust.
Russell Dust, please report to Victorion.
That's not my name.
But then, weirdly enough, like I've been in love with Siege, and like, my friends and I, like, this is the first, like, I've always been the guy that'll like, head out, in the middle of the day or even late at night and go hunting. I don't buy stuff online because I feel like that's a dangerous road for me. So I would do this thing where like, oh, if I press this button, I have less money, but a Transformer shows up. And then the next day, my wife would be like, we don't have a house, and that's Metroplex, so what happened? And so I try to keep the hunting to literally what I can go out and get from various stores. And I've always that's always also been fun. Part of the fun of it for me is, like if I'm having a bad day and I come into a place and it's like, there's Soundwave, that's great. That's a good feeling. And, it's not really the same to just, somebody sent me Soundwave. There he is. He's at my door. So I've been hunting down, like, I found one refractor, and between myself and Gio, we're going to need 6. So that kind of a thing. Siege has been awesome because it's something you go out and get. But I was just bummed about like there seems to be so few Decepticons. Like the ratio seems to be so overwhelmingly in favor of the Autobots. Even if you use guys like Brunt as a troop builder, like there's still just a lot more Autobots than Decepticons, and I kind of want it to be more even.
I always take it as like this sort of combination of like there's always this sort of industry tone, which is just the hero toys sell better, And then Transformers in animated back in '08 sort of introduced the idea of what if also the Decepticons are individually so powerful, there's fewer of them because that's all that they need. And it's cool narratively, but then toyetically, I'm kind of like, yeah, but also I'd like some more Decepticons.
Yeah, exactly. But it's very weird that they brought that up. Like it's kind of been part of it since Jump Street, right? Like if you even look at like the first wave in '84, there's like a handful of Decepticons versus like like a dozen, 2 dozen Autobots. And no other. I can't think of anything else that's like that, where the villains are like so powerful that it requires multiple heroes to take. It's usually the other way around. Or you get something where, like, the most classic setup is that there's like a small handful of named villains, and then they have like zillions of stormtroopers or whatever they call them. And Transformers have done that kind of with the Decepticons, but like they've never been like they're not part of the zeitgeist of it. Like you never think of there being like some generic Decepticon troop that is out there. In the same way that like Cobra had the Vipers, or the Empire has the Stormtroopers. So it just seems like these guys are just they're really badass, and it takes a lot more good guys to take them down. They got
very close in the 2011-2012 series. They introduced the Viacon. I mean, there were Viacons before then in Beast Machines, but the Prime Viacon was supposed to be kind of the faceless Decepticon trooper, and it's an excellent design, which even had one of the best toys in the line, which was a joy to troop build. It's the only time I've ever troop built a Transformer past 3. Like I think I have at least 10 or 20 Viacons of varying different types and colorways. It's just a beautiful toy that I am happy to purchase over and over again. And they kind of just disappeared. Like they showed up briefly in the Rid 2015 cartoon, but the Viacon kind of got left to Prime, and I always hope to see some form of that Viacon come back, because it was a great way to balance things out. Of like we'll have the Decepticon Stormtrooper, but also it'll look super cool. In a very mundane and sleek way.
Yeah, Brunt is kind of like that. The weaponizer for Siege. Yeah. There've already been like 2 weaponizers for the Autobots, because there was 6-Gun, which as a kid that had Metroplex, like it seems very weird to me that he'd have his own toy now. Like I feel like he's earned it, but it just struck me as really weird. And then they did Cog, who I guess was part of Fortress Maximus. I never had a Fortress Maximus, so I don't know. And then Brunt came out, and he just looks like a troop builder. He's got that very like sort of Cylon stormtroopery face to him. And I know that there was just the one Brunt on Trypticon, right? He was like Trypticon's tank. He didn't turn into anything.
He was kind of a drone. Yeah, he was basically a chest piece that they put wheels onto in a way.
Yeah, exactly. And this one here, like I'm actually looking at him right now. It's exactly what you'd think that tank would turn into. And he does look like there's more than one of this guy. He just doesn't have the look of being the only one. I don't know how to describe that. He has a kind of troop buildery feel to him.
Yeah, he's got like a mass-produced aesthetic. Like
exactly.
You look at him and you think, oh, that's a chassis.
He's based off of what was supposed to be some sort of troop type in the IDW comics, like Centurion droids or something like that. I'm not 100%. I'd have to look it up. And then they did Refractor, who is apparently short packed or something, because I can't find him anywhere.
Don't worry. Diamond Distributing, when they ship out their versions of Refractor to comic stores, they're, as far as last I heard, they're just doing cases of Refractor, so the market will flood. Beautifully.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a ton of them because right now I've been hunting all over. But I did find they did the Seekers set. They did the Rainmakers, and that just showed up at Target, and I literally picked that up yesterday because I've been incredibly stressed, because having a Kickstarter is incredibly stressful, and I was like, yeah, this will be nice. That'll take the edge off.
It's the healing power of robots.
Exactly. That's what the whole game is about. And I took it back, and Gia was she looks at it, she's like, they all look like knockoffs. They're all like, even their guns are the same color. Which is weirdly exactly what they're supposed to look like. It's bizarrely accurate that they look like knockoffs of actual Transformers while being actual Transformers.
Yeah, it's like we made this 3-pack of animation errors that we came up with names for, and here they are.
It's so weird to me, like that whole history of them starting off as like pseudo animation errors and are now like their own characters with their own stories and things like that. I love when things like that happen.
Oh yeah, like the new cartoon did some stuff with the Seeker body, like with Slipstream as kind of the Seeker commander, and I only watched most of the first season, but by the end, like I was falling in love with those characters because they were just this group of similarly shaped kind of bungling robots, and Slipstream is this very competent commander left with this squad of kind of perpetual failures, and I started rooting for them, like even though they're the bad guy goons. They
Is Starscream a Seeker in that, or is he something else?
I can't remember specifically. Starscream and Shockwave are like in command to the point where they call Slipstream on a big spooky monitor and yell about what she's supposed to be doing, while she's almost like she's like middle management of.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah,
I did an AMA on Wednesday. We're talking about Commandroids. I'll bring it back.
Right.
And in the AMA, it became canon. It'll be in the book that there will be a big spooky monitor with a holographic skull that represents the mainframe that'll be telling the Nemesites what to do. I love that trope of the evil monitor being like, yeah, you bunglers, and the bad guys doing stuff. I mean, it's weird because the system that we came up with for designing this thing is sort of weirdly based off of the old World of Darkness games in the 90s, where what we wanted to do was take something that was inherently sort of goofy and cheesy and look at it as seriously as we possibly could, starting with transforming robots and working our way into high fashion new wave holograms and space barbarians. So we wanted to kind of have these like original tropes of like the evil skull telling the bad guy like, oh, you failed again. But like, how do you do that in a way that makes it, that brings it back to being something that's kind of present and, and threatening and no longer quite so silly. Or at least you don't realize it was silly until after you stop and think about it for a minute. And that was exactly one of those tropes. Was constantly every time they would come to the guy on the big screen, whether it was Megatron or Hordak or whoever, they would what have you done? Goofy.
It's one of those tropes that like the way I always put it is it's a trope that works in a modern piece of media as long as the media itself is straight faced when it is sharing this. Like a big spooky face will appear on a monitor, but it's the media is completely dead serious about what's happening. For me, it works. Like, yeah,
exactly. That's what we're trying to do.
As long as the media isn't kind of looking and winking at me in the delivery, going like, right, this is pretty dumb, then I'm kind of like, okay, well, now you're telling me.
Yeah, right. No, that's exactly right. In that, having that complete sincerity with something, that normally doesn't get that treatment is exactly what I'm talking about. This is not tongue in cheek. We're taking it very seriously.
I mean, you have like I said, you guys have some excellent just setting ideas. Like the one other one that I don't mean to keep like going back to Nemesite things, but there's one other one that really stuck with me is when you described kind of their version of Megatron in the setting, who turns into an ICBM and her consort turns into a missile carrier.
Right.
I was like,
that's Polaris.
Yeah, that's like an excellent, like, that to me, and again, that's an excellent encapsulation of like these are all obviously, like, if you really want to drill into them, like, why would a robot turn into an ICBM? But it's like there's a very deadly sense of risk to that when it's presented completely straight faced as like a religious zealot leader who turns into a nuke. It's spooky.
I'm still waiting on some of the art for that because like I love the idea. Like I picture it in my head of her like having the warhead kind of like the mitre and then the various cowlings on the missile kind of looking like ecclesiastical robes. And she's the techno exarch. She's like the evil robot Pope. I don't know. She's the one that communicates directly with the mainframe.
The most dangerous Pope hat in existence.
Oh yeah, it's radioactive.
Yeah.
We started out. We were going to have like those two characters were a lot of where the game came from. Was the idea of Omega Polaris and her analog being Alpha Columbia. Alpha is sort of the Optimus Prime type, and she's a space shuttle. And the vehicle modes are kind of humanity at our best and worst.
Yeah.
And when we started playtesting, they were a bit more present, but we realized that the problem with having an Optimus Prime type or even a Megatron type is that they overshadow the players very quickly. And the last thing that makes a game fun is having the players sit around and watch, the director tell themselves a story, especially a story about how cool their own characters are. So we went back to the drawing board and said, okay, well, what if these guys are missing and the others are all looking for them? That gives anybody a chance to sort of rise to the position of the hero. And like, it makes everybody potentially like an Ultra Magnus or a Hot Rod or a Springer. Like, everybody can potentially take that role of leadership. And even in a Nemesite situation, you've got, without like the head of the organization bringing down the thunder, you can have people rise into higher positions and take control of the situation, which is, a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I mean the at the very base level as well, like the fun of a game like this is it gives you the basic tool set and some very straightforward rules at the outset to come up with cool stories, which to me is kind of the joy of, in my very limited experience, the joy of an RPG. At the outset. So like, just since we're kind of like bringing this full circle, I'll just say like because the one thing I know, like the one easy question to be asked is like, so why would I want to play a game like this? And so part of the reason I wanted to do this recording is to kind of lay out like why I think this is cool, clearly why you think this is cool, and then to say like if you want to try telling some cool stories, if you got friends you think you could meet up with to collaboratively tell cool stories, that's what a system like this to me like represents really well. And it helps that I find the villain robot side of this setting particularly inspiring for just like character concepts, for plot ideas, and etc. So go join the Kickstarter because I want this to exist, please. Thank you.
Yes, please. I also very much want this to exist.
I have a small modicum less of bias, but I also agree. I would like this to exist. So you all are sounding like you really want to come by TFcon again next year in Toronto.
Oh, absolutely. Barring some sort of major disaster, we will definitely be there. That was a lot of fun.
And if folks want to keep up with what you're up to, where should they go?
I think the best place right now is RememberX.com. That has all of the information on RememberX, which is our sort of flagship book. And Commandroids is on there, and it'll take you to the Kickstarter. It'll tell you a little bit about the Radical Shadows universe, which is the one that the Commandroids are part of. If you like what you see and you want to pick it up, it's on DriveThruRPG. You can also find us on Facebook at Nerdy City or RememberX on Facebook, and you can email us at nerds@nerdycity.com. nerds@nerdycity.com. I misspoke that. We'll answer any questions you have. We're always happy to help you out.
Yeah, and speaking from the at least like a couple hours in the afternoon experience, these are cool folks to talk to. Also, I just talked to one of them for about an hour, so still cool folks to talk to. The attitude is there that I really enjoy. Like the way you guys described this whole kind of quote unquote shared universe as like it's like you recorded this, you used the same VHS cassette and recorded different shows over top of each other, and they're all kind of bleeding together. Like it makes for a setting that is like. It's a very open setting the way that I like it. It makes me think a little bit oddly of good old City of Heroes, a setting that has built-in reasons why basically any concept you can think of could exist in there. This is a little bit more organic though. Like City of Heroes, the whole crux was you find out at the end of the game, oh, there's a whole corporation called Portal Corps, and they have portals everywhere. So literally any character concept you have once you beat the game once, you're just like, oh yeah, I'm an elf. I came from a portal. I'm a 50s detective. I came from a portal.
Right.
In this case, there's a lot more going on. Like you have a whole wow, the name just flew out of my head. The triangle pyramid with the eyeball in the Illuminati. You have a whole Illuminati.
The Illuminati, yeah.
That are they know about what's going on. They think they're in control. Maybe they are. Maybe they aren't.
But there's sort of an Illuminati analog that is in all three games that may or may not be a rough analog to also a ruthless terrorist organization determined to take over the world.
Yeah, one of those. It's a definition I'm sure that folks can look up if they're a little bit confused.
That, if you're familiar with those robots, you'll probably be familiar with those guys.
Yeah, folks who like hoods and faceplates. You're run of the mill Illuminati terrorist organizations. I would stress, like, if you like the idea of storytelling or even just coming up with character concepts, like, look into this thing. Like, things I had described to me were stuff like a news helicopter who can eject two minions, which, by the way, is a stat you can pick when you're creating a character. And those minions were, in this case, like the audio recorder and the camera that would be in a news helicopter.
Sound check and lens cap.
Yes. And
they were a lot of fun.
If you ever get the chance to like see how the character creation in this works, like if you're into the fiction side of Transformers, I was really digging like the way that you guys had that slot system, not just as an RPG character build, but also as like a way to. It's weird to put it this way because it's a storytelling game, but it was like a balanced way to create a transforming robot character where you can get carried away focusing in on one thing by not being able to do like 50 other things at the same time. The idea of balance for narrative is fascinating to me because I'm so used to balance just being like for hard gameplay.
Oh yeah. Well, I wanted to have it kind of have the feel of like you're playing with Legos. Like there's different little things that you can plug in. And a big part of it also was coming up with different vehicle modes, like and having like a zillion different vehicle modes that have different abilities that come with them as well. So you just, it's this vehicle, they're a spy, they're a warrior, they're a leader, and then they, have some sort of a gimmick. They're a triple changer, they have little minions, something like that.
Yeah. And I guess just to kind of, as one last topic that I think is important for any of these kind of games, the one thing that I'll always hear about any tabletop game in the last like year and a half that I've been looking at them, but it's a true one, is someone will say, well, I'm interested, but I don't know anyone else who is interested, so I don't know what to do. And like with a competitive game, there's a bit more of a linear path of like, well, just play the game with people, see if they like it, create your little league at a store, etc. With an RPG, I feel like it's again, in my limited experience, what I would tell someone is talk to your friends about the system and see who might be interested. But obviously with a storytelling game, I think there's even more room to do stuff with voice over IP, over Discord, over Skype, to have remote systems.
It's sort of enjoying a renaissance right now of people that are like getting back into gaming and doing it online because they can't necessarily, be immediately in the same place as each other. A thing that I do, and it's something I'm still working on, like writing, I want to write like something about just how to run a game this way, is I've got a tabletop game, right now it's Commandroids, that has about 30 players, and what I can do is schedule it online. So I get people who are like, oh, I'd love to do this, but I can't be there every week, and I can say, okay, well then I'm not going to have your character show up every week. But you'll still be in it. And so it really creates this like very diverse group of characters, and they might not all ever meet each other, but you can have like a scene where like somebody goes in and talks to the guy behind the counter at the 7-Eleven about like, did he see anything weird last week? And the guy behind the counter at the 7-Eleven might be somebody else's character. So, that makes the whole town kind of feel very alive and lived in. It was something that I started doing with Rememberex, but it works just as well with Commandroids as well, where like, this is, like larger group, and they just don't all show up at the same time. So, I've got like 30 players, but each game might have between 6 and 8 of those people show up.
And the one other like really key ingredient is having a really good GM, or games master, the person who is sort of in control of the world around the player characters. Is there like a really is there like any go-to resource people tend to share of like, you know, hey, if you don't have a GM and you want to just be the GM, like is there like a Bible someone reads? Is there like the one book you're supposed to check out? I've never actually been sure.
I feel like I should have an answer to this. There are plenty of books on the subject. Once again, I would direct you to Drive Through RPG or something like that, and you know, just look up like jamming guides. If you want to run a game, by all means, it's something that the best way to learn it is to just start to do it. And there are certainly resources online that, you know, even if you just Google how to run a game, it's all going to be very much geared towards how to run Dungeons and Dragons, but you can take that knowledge and sort of twist it to whatever you want. So you can do like City of Heroes or Commandroids or Shadowrun or whatever. It's the trickiest thing, and the first piece of information I would give is that it's about making sure that the players are the heroes, that like even if they're the villains, they're the heroes, like that they are front and center of the story, that they're the most important thing that is happening. And once you've sort of got that down, like, you know, then even if it's not going the direction you necessarily thought it would, you learn to like just sort of bend with it and follow them. They're going to do the work. Yeah. You're just sort of chasing behind and saying, you know, what the weather is like. But yeah, and there's also there's various online resources. The first one I can think of off the top of my head is Roll20, and there's, I think, other ones that will help you to set up or join a role-playing community online and find players. Mm-hmm. And I would say that we are definitely going to be at least at TFcon Toronto running this. So if you want to play it, that'll be a chance there. And I can't 100% say if I'm going to be at any of the others, but I would very much like to. So hopefully I'll be there and I can run something. If you want to try it out, you know, I'll put up on the Nerdy City Facebook and on the website like where we're going to be for the next year.
I mean, worst case, like I'm looking forward to seeing you guys again at TFcon. I thought that was not just, you know, that you guys specifically were there with this specific game, but like to have the presence of a tabletop system that's relevant to, you know, what's going on. I thought it was really nice additional flavor to add to the schedule and to just the general atmosphere of the convention.
Oh, thank you. I had a really good time.
You're welcome. Please come again. Well, what I'll say is I definitely at the beginning said, yeah, we'll talk for about, 20, 30 minutes, see where we go. And this usually happens when I say that. We're hitting the 80-minute mark on the raw recording. So I should probably cap it off here. But thank you so much for taking the time. Like I said, I was real messy between now and TFCon with 1.5 other things going on.
I really appreciate you having me on. Like I said, we're just pushing to make this thing real and doing everything we can. So I very much appreciate you listening to me talk about robots and role-playing games.
That was a pleasure. And, we inadvertently have diversified into talking about tabletop a lot more with the advent of a Transformers card game. And I think that this is just like, it's a topic that's of interest to me. It's of interest to Aaron, especially Seth, who's not regularly on with us, but, he has been doing D&D for a bit. Like I'm happy we had some time to like talk properly just about, not just the system, but about the genre. So if listeners want to check out more, as we said the names a few times, but Nerdy City, Rememorex, Commandroids, check out the Kickstarter. Take part in it, please, because I would like that book to exist.
Yes,
that's me
please.
Being selfish. I'm just going to selfishly say I'd like for that book to exist. And thank you, Sean, for heading by here. You're welcome back whenever you want. Give me a poke if you want to come by and just
absolutely.
talk robots.
Let me know when you want to do one, and I could probably bring some of the other members of the team, and we could even maybe do like a quick little run through of a scenario or something. That might be fun.
Ooh, I'm actually way into that idea. Yes, if I forget, listeners, ask me about that thing we were going to do with a scenario. We'll close up here. Thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you again later. Until then, please stay safe, and hey, roll some dice.
What the fuck's going on down there?